Today I wanted to introduce you to 6 really weird colors that I've been playing with lately, and I really am enjoying what they do. Some mute, some make things really, really dark, like this Mars Violet. Shadow Green has such a beautiful blue cast that just wait till you see how it mixes with the other colors. So let me introduce you to the palette. These are all Holbein or HWC watercolors. So the first one is Davies Gray. You know it's my superhero color. You can see how much of the tube is used. Then there's Shell Pink, Mars Violet, Yellow Gray, one of my new favorites, Green Gray, wait till you see the green coloration in this one, and then there's Shadow Green. So pretty. I also have a Princeton Long Round Aqua Elite brush, number 8. Then I've got my favorite palette here. This is the back side of it. That's the front side. And I've got them all laid out according to the direction that they have them. So the order that I just shared with you is how they're laid out on this palette. And then I'm using a handmade journal. This is Fabriano paper, 90-pound cold press watercolor paper. I have found a wonderful lady on Etsy named Deanna who makes the most beautiful journals. I will share all of these supplies in the video description box below. So let me explain the color chart that we're going to do, because I want you to be able to see the colors for how they intermix, especially because they're all a little different. They're kind of muted. They are very weird colors, I'm telling you, that you wouldn't find them on most people's palette, but of course mine have several of them. So go figure. You guys know what a weird colorist I am anyways. Here's what I have. I have 6 boxes going this way and 6 boxes going this way because there's 6 colors. And they are about 1.25 inches by 1 inch. And I'm going to share the way that I color mix, which is a little different than a lot of other people's. And you'll see the first 2 rows, it's Davies Gray in the first row and Shell Pink in the second. You'll understand totally with those 2 rows what I'm doing. The colors going diagonal are the true colors. They are true, meaning that Davies Gray and Davies Gray is this one, Shell Pink and Shell Pink is this one. Because I have the order going the same here and in the same going down here, I'm able to create that continuity of color there to create those pure colors. If you mix up the order from here to here, you won't get that diagonal line of true colors. So that's why I have them in this specific order. It's storming outside, so if you hear a little bit of thunder, that's all it is. The first color is Davies Gray. Since it's Davies Gray and Davies Gray, my color is over here, but it's Davies and Davies, so this is the pure color. Pull you down right now. There we go. So the next color is Davies Gray and Shell Pink. Now because this line here is Davies Gray, I'm going to try to keep everything on this bluish side. So even though I'm adding Shell Pink, which is this bright pink, I still want it to remain on the blue side. So I'm going to just go into some Shell Pink here and mix it. So you saw what happened, right? It just became really, really light. But again, I want it on the bluer side. That's perfect. And there's a method to my madness, trust me. I get the best color charts with this formula. Now you know I have to splash. When I splash, I dip 3 fingers in to the first knuckle, and then I flick it on. Now I am splashing for two reasons. First, I like the texture, but it also lets me see the lighter value. You can see there. See how it's letting me see the lighter and the darker? I need 4 more piles of Davies Gray here. Okay, and the next color that I'm mixing with it is Davies Gray and Mars Violet. This is Mars. I gotta go very light, get very dark very fast, because remember, I want to keep it on the blue side, not the violet side. Oh yeah, look at that color. Let's see. I think a little bluer. That's good. By keeping it on the Davies Gray, or whatever way is the horizontal bar, it lets you have a clear picture of what this color will do for you. It allows you to keep it on the main color page or face, you know, keeping the Davies Gray still in the blues or the gray colors. Like if I change this to more violet, it really wouldn't allow you to see what this color can do. I will be splashing all along the way, but I might not show it to you. The next color is Davies Gray and Yellow Gray. Now this Yellow Gray, it is such a pretty yellow. Let's do that here. So it's a yellow green that has a mix of gray in it. It has become one of my favorite landscape colors. I just really love it. Okay, I wanted to stay on the blue side, remember? And you can see it's quite yellow. Here we go, that's better. See how much more blue it is? Now yellow and gray is going to make a green, so that is going to happen. I just wanted it to be on the little more blue side than the yellow side. And you'll see the difference that it creates when we get to the yellows. If you are splashing, always make sure to use clean water. I have 2 jars of water next to me, one for dirty and one for clean. The next color is Davies Gray and Green Gray. Now this green is really a beautiful green. It's like, think of a dark grass green. That's kind of what this color reminds me of. I'm making sure that it's different than the Davies. I rarely use this green by itself, but I do use it a lot for mixing because you'll see, isn't this just a beautiful like emeraldy gray color? It's really pretty. If you're a landscape painter, it would be one definitely to have. The shadow green is the darkest of them all, and it's more like a perylene green. So I need to go lightly. Just see what it did to that. It just made it a little more, to me it adds a little turquoisey blue color to it. Making sure they're different. And I really love the name Shadow Green. It just sounds mysterious. Shell Pink is next. Now you can tell on here, look how bright and intense Shell Pink is. I picked it because of that brightness. Now when I'm using Shell Pink, it is mostly as a muting color. So I add it to a green or a purple and you get the prettiest colors. You'll see. So this is Shell Pink and Shell Pink. And I want you to see how intense this is compared to that Davies Gray. I need a little bit more water. Here we go. It's almost neon on this paper. So in this area and this weird set, it is the one that will brighten. So it's a brightening color for me because you can see that it's the brightest on there. So then we've got Shell Pink and Davies Gray. Now because it is a horizontal line of Shell Pink, I want it to stay on the pink side this time, which is going to be a little hard, but we will do our best. You can see it just changed it enough. See how dirty it is with the Davies gray? I normally use Magello shell pink, but it is getting harder and harder to find on Amazon. So here's where I want you to see the difference. So this is shell pink plus Davies gray. This is Davies gray plus shell pink. So we use the same two mixes, but we've got two totally different results. This is why keep this one to the main color, which is Davies gray over here. And then this row we're gonna keep on the pink side with shell pink. Okay, we're going into Mars Violet. Very intense color, just a little should do it. Whoa. Again, I want it more on the pink side than the purple. That looks pretty good. It's gonna have a little purple cast, but it should still read pink. So think about if you were painting grapes or raspberries. This would be a great lightest tone here. This would look really pretty. When I'm creating colors, it helps too to get it in my mind, like, what would I use it for? Makes it kind of stick in my head a little better. Okay, the next one is shell pink and yellow gray. Now yellow and purple are across from each other, so that means they're complementary colors. So that means they should kind of brown each other out. This makes the most awful color that I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite mixes. I don't know what you would call this color, but it's really kind of cool. This is why I'm calling this the weird colors, because they just don't make sense, but yet they play so well together and so beautiful. Especially for someone who likes to have muted colors in their work. The next color is green gray, so shell pink and green gray. You can see that turned it way too green. That's kind of a pretty mix right there. Let's see if I can get it just a little on the pinker side. There we go. You see how ugly but beautiful? Okay, shadow green is next. I'm already adding more pink because I know it's gonna be a hard color here. All right, let's lift a little. See that? Oh man, do you see this? Look at that color. It's so pretty. Need more pink, definitely. There we go. Now look at the two. See how brighter green this is and see how more of a blue cast? That's why this shadow green color is such a beautiful color to play with. It almost gives off like indigo undertones, and it's just so pretty. I mean, you can see the blue here. The next color is Mars Violet. So Mars Violet and Mars Violet, this is the true color here. This color reminds me of a caput mortuum without the heaviness of the caput mortuum. Sometimes the caput feels very thick. Where this one I think still has some lovely transparent qualities to it. Some Davies Gray to it. Now again, I want to keep it on the Mars Violet side. Did you see what the Davies did to it? It just kind of lightened it and made it a little on the blue side, but it's still a violet color. It's a little more dusty now. It's a great vintage color. Can you believe that's the same color, right? Okay, this is Mars Violet and Shell Pink. Now I want the pink, watch what happens to it here. I'm adding quite a bit of pink. Look at that. It makes it kind of a cloudy version of itself, which I love. So you can see this has a lot more lighter reddish tones than the Davies Gray had more blue tones. And see next to one another here? See the difference? I'm going to add just a touch more of the Mars Violet. I think I got a little too light because I'm looking at Shell's Pink and Mars Violet there. So I want to add just a little bit of the Mars Violet. There we go. That's better. So see now that's deeper. It's just a way to kind of check yourself to make sure you're doing the right color. And this is a deep color, so I do want to make sure that I make it a nice and rich color. Now we have Mars Violet and Yellow Gray. I'm anxious to see what this color makes here. Especially since purple and yellow are complementary, so they brown each other out. Let's see what this color is. A little more red. I got a little too much yellow, I think, in there. I don't know if you can see the difference there. It seems a lot more richer, a lot more brown to me. And that's because they're complementary colors. So that means they're directly across the color wheel. And whenever you do that, they definitely turn a little more brown. The next color is Mars Violet and Green Gray. Some of my favorite mixes are green and violet together because they're unexpected. You get the really pretty colors sometimes. Oh yeah, look at how rich that is. The last color is Mars Violet and Shadow Green. Now remember, this one has a bluer cast, so I'm going to be looking for how different that looks than this one. So I'm kind of looking for a blue violet instead of a red violet. That's pretty. Let's see here. Oh yeah. Now, are you seeing the benefit of keeping the rows according to the horizontal, right? Because now we have a blue row, a Davies Gray row, Shell Pink row, and a Mars Violet row. And you can see the distinction, which I really, really love. Because let's just look at Davies Gray plus Mars Violet. And then up here is Mars Violet plus Davies Gray. But it's the same two colors, but they're mixed differently. I want you to just think of pea soup. That's kind of what this color is. Yellow, gray here and here. Here's the true color. see how it's like a yellow, brown, gray? When you're doing color charts, about halfway through, you should go change your water. But if you're using really dark darks like this, that are kind of thick and chunky, think of like a Putmortem or an Indigo or a Payne's Gray, you should almost wash them every other time. So every other row is how I would do that. But you always want clean water so that you're not contaminating the colors. Okay, we've got yellow gray and Davies gray. Keeping it on the yellow side. I want it to be different than that one. So I definitely need more yellow here. Let's see. Yep, it's different than that. That one has more blue. Then we've got yellows, gray, and shell pink. Watch what it does to it. Isn't that amazing? So I want it to be a different color than that one. Let's put it on there. A little more yellow. Such an unnatural color combination, but it's one of my favorites. This color is perfect for daffodils. Have you ever struggled painting daffodils? You know, like that yellow, brown, green, without it looking like it's a dead color? That is where this yellow gray turns into a beautiful color. Okay, we got yellow gray and Mars violet. Again, they are across from the color wheel, so I need to be very gentle with this violet. And you can see that I was not gentle at all. There we go. And look at this color. So that's yellow gray and Mars violet. So it's different. It's on the yellow side. It's already turning out to be one of my favorite rows because I want you to think about nature and all of those greens just everywhere, any time of year. Now we have yellow gray and green gray. I need, I think, a little more yellow to this mix. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's good. So it's deeper than this. It's a lot greener. With the green gray, it seems a little springier because it's got a little brighter green into it. I know it doesn't look brighter green here, but next to the original color, it is definitely a brighter green. Let's see what magic happens with shadow green and yellow gray. Okay, a little goes a long way. Ooh, it's way too much. Wow, pretty. I hope you're seeing too that the Holbein are really giving me a lot of splash activation, and I look for that in a paint color, but I can tell you that I absolutely love it on this paper. It's going to react a lot different on 100% cotton paper than it does on this Fabriano paper. Okay, now we've got green gray. This is what I think is the purest color on here out of these 6 weird colors. So green gray and green gray. Green gray plus Davies gray. So I have to be different than that. So I should have more green and less blue. Let's have a look here. I need more green. That's better. Okay, are you ready to see what shell pink does to this color? Let's pick some up here. Wow, so pretty. It almost makes like a lighter shade of the Davies gray. I need to add a little bit more green into that. I think that's good. And you can see it's much different from there to there. Same two colors, but much different. Green gray plus Mars violet. I want it on the green side, not the violet side. Ooh, that's a pretty color. So it needs to be different than that. Let's go a little greener. Do you see what green and violet do together? It's such a beautiful green. I don't know why I like it, and I'm drawn to those so much. Like this color, if it came in a tube, I would buy it. I just love this coloration. But as you see, it's easy enough to mix. We have green gray and yellow gray. It has to be different than this one. All right. So if you were looking for some perfect greens for landscapes, I think Davies gray is a beautiful color, but I also think the yellow gray and the green gray as well. And just wait till you see what the shadow green does. Now we have green gray and shadow green. Do you see the blue cast of this? You can see how much bluer it is right next to the color. Like that's the pure color there. One more beautiful row to go, and this is the bluer color, the blue shadow green here. So shadow green and shadow green. You can see I should have let that dry, but that's okay. Shadow green plus Davies gray. Let's watch what happens to it here. It needs to be different than that color. Let's see. Need a little bit more of the shadow green. Make it a little richer. See the difference between the two? So that one's a little softer, that one's a little bolder. Okay, watch what shell pink does to it. It's like magic to me. It just makes me smile. Oh yeah, let's play. When you know what the colors do on your palette, I think you become a better artist because you're more willing to experiment. You're willing to just say, like, what happens if we add this color and this color? You're not second guessing yourself, but you're also willing to try new color combinations. I like that by mixing, you know, another artist can't create this color. Yes, they can come close, but they're not going to mix in the same kind of, maybe I put more of this shadow green than I did the shell pink. And who in their right mind would have these colors on their palette, shadow green and shell pink together? You know, I think that's what makes us individuals. And what is when we find colors like that, that kind of stand out for us, you know, take advantage of that. Because for me, that's what made me stand out in acrylics. I used softer colors. I didn't really use darks. I used a charcoal gray was my dark. So by doing that, it made my work stand out because it was more medium value instead of the extreme light and dark. but I also, because I mixed colors, they had a softer feel. So think about if I was just using the tube colors, right, which are these diagonal colors. If that's all I was using, I would not be able to create all these other beautiful colors. And to me, that enriches my palette, but it also enriches my knowledge of what my colors will do for me. When you've got this full range that you know your shell pink does, you're like, wow, what happened if I added a brown? Or what happens if I added a Payne's gray or a black or a granulating color, right? It's like the list goes on, and it challenges you to think differently. And I think that's one of the things that I really love about color mixing is it does make you intrigued about what else, what if, how come, how many can I mix, right? It's just all about that. So now we've got Shadow Green and Mars Violet. Too much violet there, not enough green. That's pretty. Okay, I need this to be different than this color. So that's Mars Violet and Shadow Green. So I need it to be on the green side, is it? A little more green, I think. And I need more water. Ooh, look at that. It's almost like a black, a blue black. Wow, is that pretty? And when you see a color like this too, ask yourself, what would I use this with? You know, this would look great on like a crow or a raven, something really dark like that. But it would also look beautiful on an eggplant or the center of a flower. Okay, we've got Shadow Green and Yellow Gray. It's got to be different than this one. So I can see I need a lot more of the green. Let's have a check of this color. Checking against that. A little more green. There we go. That color is so dark. Look at that. Okay, our last color is Shadow Green and Green Gray. And it's got to be different than this. And I can tell it already is. It's much darker. It's much on the bluer side. Right, nice. Aren't you excited about these weird, ugly colors? I know, right? I'm going to let this dry, and whenever I am splattering, I try to let it dry naturally, just in case there's any kind of granulation or anything happening. I don't like to rush the process. So I'll be back when they're dry, and then I'll give you a closer look. Now, I've read in the comments before that some of you think of color mixing like this, making a color chart, as wasting paint. I can think of nothing further than the truth. When you understand what your colors will do for you, I can't see how that is wasting any kind of paint. You use such a minimal amount for this and you gain so much more. But I do want to show you what I do with the leftover paint here. So I have half pans of all of my colors. So I just scoop it up and I stick it in the half pan. You can use a palette knife too. It will take a little bit more off. But this way you're picking up as much of the paint as you can and putting it where it belongs so it can be used. So, are you ready to see the weird but wonderful colors? Let me introduce you to the Holbein 6 here. So again, Davies Gray, Shell Pink, Mars Violet, Yellow Green, Green Gray, Shadow Green. And I'm going to bring you up so you can see them up close and personal, and pay attention to what the water did. Look at that right there, just those 12 colors. Oh my goodness, what a palette. So let me ask you, what do you see using this palette for? I see it being used for everything. It's also great for landscapes, mountains, anything like that, because you've got all of these greens. If you are struggling for greens, I would buy these 4 greens and just play. I cannot think of more beautiful greens to play with for landscapes, because if you had a buff titanium, what's going to happen is all of these are going to become lighter and a little more murkier, kind of like that coloration there. So you're going to get a little more muted tone, but it's going to create so many more values for you. If you like to paint with a sepia or a Van Dyke brown, one of those really rich, deep browns, imagine adding those to this palette here and here. And what kind of lovely greens will you get? They'll get deeper, but they'll also be a little muddier with those brown undertones. So I want you to think of tree bark or fallen trees or lichen in the woods, deep in the woods. You're going to get great shadow colors. I also find this a versatile palette for anything in the garden because of the variety of greens. Now, of course, you're probably going to need a brighter orange, a brighter red, something for flowers. Think of like poppies. You could not mix a poppy color here. You could not mix a tulip color here. So then you would have to add those brighter colors. So think of maybe a bright yellow, a bright red. Probably that's all you would really need. Because then from there, you should be able to mix every green and every other color with that, because you're going to have those primary colors that are going to give you the brightness. Just like the shell pink, you see that it gives you brightness, right? I mean, look at the shell pink row in all of the colors here. It's a little brighter, it's a little more intense, it's a little more lively, and that's because shell pink is a much brighter color than, say, the Mars Violet, right? So it's going to liven it a little. And you can see that the Davies Gray here is a little more blue and muted. So it's giving you really muted tones here, where the Shadow Green is a little more deeper, darker, and bluer. So everything in this aisle seems a little more blue. By mixing colors like this, I feel it makes you a better artist because you're understanding what a shell pink will do to your palette, what a off blue will do to your palette, what a really rich Mars Violet or say a Caput Port Mortem would do to your palette. And when you start to look at that and play with it and understand how many more values you can get and how many more color mixes. I mean, we use 6 colors here. This is 36 colors. So think about if you took one of these colors and you stepped it out by adding more water. It's going to give you more tints. Tints are lighter. So if we took this, added water, rinsed our brush, added water, rinsed our brush, added water, every time you're going to get a lighter value of just this one color. So this 36 palette could actually go times 5 pretty easily. So 36 colors times the 5 adding waters, that gives you 180 different colors. So I know all of us love to buy colors. Believe me, I'm one of them too. But sometimes that just adds confusion to the mix. When you can just start with 6 colors like this and just play and see what they can do, sometimes that's easier than having 385 colors. If you are just starting out, what I would say is a red, yellow, blue, and maybe a brown or a neutral tint. If you have those 4 colors, you can easily make 300 colors. I have a course called Cultivated Color that shows you just how to do that. Do not get overwhelmed by not having the colors that everyone else has. What I'm showing you here is what a different and weird, what I call a weird palette can do for you. But that doesn't mean you need it, because on your red, yellow, and blue palette, you can mix a violet. You can mix it to more blue or more red or more yellow, and you'll get different tones. They might not look like this, but they will look similar to a blue violet, a red violet, and a more neutral violet. But by adding that brown or no neutral tint, you're going to get something a little richer like this. And that comes with practice. The only way to learn color and to understand color is to play with color. I love to color mix because it expands my mind and it makes me think about the different things that I can use this palette for. Like I'm like kind of over these Mars violets in there, and I'm like, wow, what can I use those for? And all I can think of right now is like mushrooms and eggplants and deep violets, but they're gorgeous and they would add a really nice coloration to bark. So think about a tree and you just add just a little bit of this violet to the dark shadow side. It's going to enliven that tree a little bit because you're adding a different color that's unexpected. Just like if you are using a lot of yellow greens in something and you touch into like this color, the blue green, and you introduce it into there, it's going to stand out, but it's going to look gorgeous. Think about doing water with just the Davies gray and this bottom row. Can you imagine all the tones you're going to get and all the values and all the color variations? It's just going to be really, really pretty. So please mix colors that you have and see what you can come close with this. So I want you to look at your palette and go, okay, let's pick out 6 really weird colors. And let's see what they do. There's nothing wrong with experimenting. I mean, it's your palette, so have fun playing. Pick a light, pick a dark, pick a really weird color like yellow gray, you know, that I absolutely love. And just start mixing. That's all it's about. If you were inspired by today's weird yet wonderful colors, please like, subscribe, or comment. I would really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.